Hello there, this is Elora, and I'm a prequel trilogy kid.
And this is Dave, and I'm an original trilogy kid. And you're listening to What Does Star Wars Mean to You? The show where we talk to all kinds of fans of the franchise, from industry insiders to indie artists, from obsessive mythologists to mega collectors, all for one goal, to take the hate out of the debate by focusing on one fan at a time to find out, what does Star Wars mean to you? Plus, it's just a lot of fun to chat Star Wars.
It is. Welcome to our episode between episodes. This is where Dave and I deep dive on our favorite aspects of our guest interviews and just discuss what's interesting in the world of Star Wars to us this week. Last week, we talked to Juan Montes, who is an Emmy-nominated broadcast producer and friend of the show. And we had a really fun conversation with Juan about his Star Wars journey. So maybe we should just go ahead and dive right into the Holocron recap.
So the Holocron recap is where we take a look at last week's episode and see what we pulled out of it. Mm-hmm. And Juan had a lot of great things. One of the stories he related was staying in the cabin in Alaska. Mm-hmm. I forget what it was called, a dry cabin or something like that.
I think it's dry cabin, yeah.
My only question about it was, you're up in Alaska, you're out in like the middle of nowhere. Did you pretend it was Hoth? and he said yes, and that just that made my heart sing, because I was thinking about how much I would want to do that. I'd want to take an AT-ST out there and recreate the Hoth battle scene in Alaska just for, poops and giggles.
Oh, yeah, just for the gram.
Yes.
My other favorite, I feel like you and I usually pull out, our favorite, fun moment and our favorite, deeper moment of the show.
You're right. You're right.
We do tend to do that kind of accidentally. My favorite kind of, haha moment was when he was talking about going to Fry's temple-themed electronics store with his dad to get Star Wars on VHS.
Yes.
It was just so nostalgic. I think we are probably, the prequel trilogy kids are probably the last of society that remembers VHS tapes being a thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
So it was really nostalgic and fun for me. Actually, my husband and I were antiquing over the weekend, and we found a vendor who had just a wall of old VHS tapes, and we were they were all $1, and we were going through there and being like, which ones do we want just for keepsake purposes? Yeah. No one has a VHS player anymore, but just to say we have it. So that was fun. And then I also just love...
Wait. I apologize for interrupting, but I just want to say real quick, I have a VHS player.
Do you?
So if you ever need one...
Thank you. We used to have the DVD VHS combo, but then we all went to streaming, which is actually kind of a bummer because we do have quite a lot of DVDs. But they're more just relics in our house now of the old days.
just bookshelf reminders of what you could watch.
Yes. Of how old we are. But I loved what it kind of led into a conversation about what inspired him so much as a kid about Star Wars, and that was the world building and the filmmaking.
Yes.
And we ended up in a really interesting conversation about kind of there's nothing wrong with borrowing themes, that art inspires a lot of art, that there's a lot of kind of divisiveness amongst fandoms about how maybe, has Star Wars been inspired by Dune? And then,
yes.
That was kind of the example we pulled for our conversation, but I think that's true for a lot of franchises and stories. Everyone's like, well, this is just a ripoff of X.
Well, yeah, there's a big, Harry Potter's a ripoff of Star Wars, the one-of-a-kind kid, the chosen one, who has a magic stick that defeats evil.
Yeah. Well put. But that, there's only so many original ideas, and art has always inspired art. And I don't know, I think it's a conversation that you and I have had, but not on mic. And so I was kind of glad that we went there. Yeah.
Yes. It's just really an enjoyable part of it when we can discuss these things without bringing the hate into it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
What else stood out to you?
I really liked it when we asked about the element, what are the three elements that make Star Wars to you? Mm-hmm. One of the things he said was it needs to be able to breathe, which to me I took as it needs to be able to, you need to give it time to sit with and also to cook. And I found that really fascinating because just a week before we had Mark Newbold, and he was talking about how anticipation is one of the 3 elements of Star Wars for him. And so...
Oh, good call out.
Felt like they're like in the same quadrant on a graph, like anticipation and needing to breathe. And right now with us is such a content-driven world, as well as the amount of I mean, just this week we've had 6 hours of Andor and I don't know, about 45 minutes of Tales of the Underworld. And that's a lot of Star Wars in a 1 week
I think you meant 3 hours of Andor.
Well, I was thinking, I was cheating a little bit going Tuesday to Tuesday to make the number even better.
Sorry. Cut that out.
No, that's totally fine. I think it was a good question, actually. And so when things echo with different people, when they start resonating and I'm hearing the same thing a couple of times, I think that's a place to plant a flag and say, what is it about that statement that is really making people notice it? And I think I tend to agree. Star Wars needs anticipation and a beat to breathe.
I agree. I think honestly, it would be a great, I think it's how do I say this? I think it's a lesson that a lot of current media could learn from.
Yes.
I feel like there's a lot of storytelling in today's film and television that I think this is, you and I shit on social media quite a lot on our podcast. But I do think that we have this instant gratification kind of mindset. And so we're wanting this like quick resolution in our stories. We're wanting like things to happen, quickly. We want like fast succession, more.
Yes.
But it's better when it breathes.
Well, yes, and it's a little better when you get a chance to sit with it for a little bit and consider it as opposed to just immediately moving on to the next thing.
Yeah.
With all that in mind, though, what do you think of the Andor release schedule of like roughly 3 hours per week over a 4-week spread? Like, I'm going to answer my own question first. I hope you don't mind.
I don't.
But it goes against what we're saying right now, but I kind of love it because the anticipation for Andor has been, 2 years for season 2? Mm-hmm. So that's a long ramp-up period. And then I think the way they crafted the story so that they're in distinctive 3-episode arcs makes it feel more like I'm watching one episode as opposed to watching 3 episodes in one night.
Yeah, I was good. That's exactly what I was about to say, is that I think it actually plays out a little bit differently because it's not only the way that it's 3 episodes at a time covering 1 year of time. So you do have these time jumps. That's the breadth for me that's built in.
Yes.
But it took so long for them to produce and put this together. So we've already been sitting on pins and needles in anticipation. Yes. And I kind of like that they're dropping essentially a movie a week, but the way that they're splitting it up also plays into this, like having the ability to breathe, where it's like, if you want to sit with them each one at a time and get through the arc that way, you can, or you can watch it as essentially one large film, but then you're going to have to wait a whole week before you get the next year.
Yes. Yes.
So I don't know. It does and it doesn't in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. No, both things can coexist at the same time.
Yeah.
Should we hear what he said Star Wars meant to him?
I think so.
To me, Star Wars means filmmaking and just the whole process of it. I've watched a bunch of like documentaries of like the making of Star Wars and all of that, and I just fell in love with like the bringing people together and making a film. And it's as I've grown older and as I've entered my career as a producer, I've started seeing how really hard it is to make film and TV. It's just really hard because you're just not alone, right? You have to bring everybody together. Yes. You have to bring directors. You have to bring other producers. You have to bring writers. And I'm seeing how really difficult it's just to make a movie, and what George Lucas probably went through as he was losing his mind making that first movie, and not knowing what he was handed millions of dollars. It's like, hey, make a movie and make your vision, and it's just like not easy. And to me, Star Wars means filmmaking, and it just means a lot to me because that's what I'm going through right now. Just like going through making TV, hoping to make short films, hoping to make hopefully feature films later on, and yeah, that's what it means to me.
Yeah.
I have to say, I really related to what he said about what Star Wars meant to him, because that I think so many people were inspired to go into filmmaking because of Star Wars, myself included. And I really love his empathy or sympathy for George Lucas, saying he was probably losing his mind making that first movie, which I think any director, especially early in their career, is probably losing their mind because there's so many variables. Like, so many variables have to come together, and you're just like John Williams conducting this orchestra, and who knows if the violinist will be in tune or if the drummer will be on beat, and you're just trying to make sure everyone's on the same page and executing your vision. I just thought it was a really I think it's a point of view that everyone can relate to, but one that we haven't quite heard on the show yet.
I agree. I also loved the sympathy for what George was doing, especially with the first film. I think not only losing his mind, but it had to have been absolutely terrifying to be creating something that hadn't been done before.
Yes.
And existed only in his head.
Yes.
I mean, talk like any pioneer of art, having the respect for that having been the process. I don't think it's a perspective we've had on the show yet.
And also the idea that I don't know if a lot of people had faith in the movie when he was making it. Like, 20th Century Fox gave George Lucas the merchandising rights and the sequel rights in lieu of paying him more. And so he took less money and he put more of his own money into the movie just to get it done. And of course, it was like the best move in the world. But that's if you're George Lucas with Star Wars.
Yeah, but I was going to say, though, I mean, isn't that such a rally cry to believing in the things that you're making and betting on yourself?
I think if you're making and betting at that level, yes, it is. Yeah. That's like high stakes poker. He walked away with a royal flush. Yeah. And he won the game. This week for Into the Datapad, we're doing something different. There's a Star Wars-based event coming up called the Forest Moon Festival, the weekend of May 30th in Northern California, and we have some of the people who will be bringing it to you. Please give a warm hello there to the film commissioner of Humboldt Del Norte Film Commission, Cassandra Hesseltine. Did I say your name? I got it right.
You
right?
got it.
Nice. Smiles all around.
As well as one of the people who are helping to make it happen, Tracy Boyd.
Hello.
Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I was just going to say, maybe we should get to know you both before we learn more about the festival.
Sounds good.
And our favorite way to get to know our Star Wars guests are to kind of hear a little bit about your Star Wars origin story. When did you first see it, and walk us through that?
Well, I was just a young child when the original episode 4 came out, A New Hope, and it blew my mind. I think in hindsight, I think sort of tapping into that Joseph Campbell hero's journey, really resonated. But it was just like nothing I had ever seen. And there was something so poetic and beautiful about it. But at the same time, it was fun and an adventure. And, I was always drawn to sci-fi generally. So it hit me. It hit me in a big way. And you never forgot that moment.
Yeah.
What we like to say is there's an on-ramp for every fan. And I think the original trilogy fans, it's always Star Wars, A New Hope, that gets them sucked into it right away. What about you, Cassandra?
Well, my origin and my favorite go-to out of the whole series is one and the same. And it also started with Star Wars: A New Hope. I was 4, and I remember going to the drive-in for Jaws. I remember going to the movie theater for Superman and also Grease. I don't remember the movie theater for Star Wars: A New Hope. I remember being immersed. It's like as if it was there in my reality. I just remember it like surrounding me. I don't know if we were sitting close to the screen or whatever, but my 4-year-old little brain is like, I was there, versus remembering being at the theater. I was in the movie. And so that one is like, definitely imprinted on my brain. And so I think for me, the go-to of this for us, Gen Xers, that was the start of the whole series. So, embarrassed to say it's not Return of the Jedi necessarily. That is my go-to favorite film. That would maybe be my second because it started where it started,
And I think that's a usual kind of happenstance is people, the first one they see is their kind of comfort movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's the reason why Attack of the Clones is on my wall in poster form. Yeah.
Was that your first experience, Elora?
No, my first experience in the theater, I think that is from memory. I watched the rest of them though with my folks at home. So it wasn't my first Star Wars, but I'm pretty sure it was my first Star Wars in the theater, at least to my waking memory. I don't know what you call that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Consciousness.
Yeah, my conscious memory. Yeah.
Tracy, what is your Star Wars go-to comfort film?
Well, I wish I could say Return of the Jedi. It's definitely up there, but Empire Strikes Back, because, how can you just not fall in love with Yoda and like the wisdom being taught in the swamp and just that whole reveal, and Luke goes into the cave, and just all of that sequence was so deep and beautiful and mysterious and fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's one I feel like I could just watch over and over and over again.
Nice.
Absolutely. And I love the cave moment and I love saying now, it's like whenever I'm facing an issue or something I have to take care of, I always consider what is it I'm going to bring into the cave with me, as this is what you bring to the situation. That just got a lot deeper than I ever intended it to. Since we're talking about the Forest Moon Festival, though, which of course references the Forest Moon of Endor, in Return of the Jedi, what is your favorite Endor moment?
So it is when the Ewoks are the celebration after they've conquered all, and there is an Ewok drumming on Stormtrooper's head, and he's using that as drums. That might be my favorite demented moment of yes. I love that moment.
That's genius.
Fun.
I saw a meme the other day that someone put Phil Collins' In the Air Tonight drum solo to that.
Oh my! We have to find that meme. If you find it, please send it to us. I have to see
I will.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that would just because I grew up obviously with that song, and that would just combine worlds for me. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
What about you, Tracy? What was your favorite Endor moment?
Oh gosh. Why don't you ask an easy question like about quantum field theory or something?
Okay, so if two universes on a parallel track
traveling at the same time. No.
It's funny maybe to choose this moment, but honestly, it's that wide shot where you see the entire village in the canopy at night and all the little fires and all the little celebrations. And it was just, at that point, I had never seen old growth redwoods before. I had never been I grew up in Detroit. So, I mean, even seeing a tree was a miracle, but let alone that. And it just I couldn't believe what planet did they go to film this? And now being lucky enough to live here and see that with my own eyes, it's funny how that resonance from childhood really came back around in a way.
Yeah.
So I'd have to say that moment. It transported me when I was a little kid seeing that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's an incredible shot that really, like you said, it transports you to a different planet, even though, they're using elements of Earth.
Yeah. And that happens a lot. He's nailing it of the fact that you're where did they film that? That seems like someplace else. We get a lot of people who don't, that when they first discover, wait, those are real, those trees exist, that's in Northern California, it blows their mind, just film tourists alone. But then also filmmakers that when they see it, are very excited to film it. We've actually had a director one time who said, we're not going to film there because Return of the Jedi filmed there. It's too iconic. And
Yeah.
then I said, can I just show it to you? And within 30
Nice.
seconds, they added it to the movie, so
Oh, that's
they were like,
fantastic.
You probably know this well, but it's like even the best Hollywood cinematic magic truly can't capture it like seeing it in person. It's like you can see these beautiful shots and images of it, but then when you're actually standing in the midst of it, it's just a whole other level. It's too massive to capture on film.
Yeah.
Well, tell us, how can we stand in the midst of it? Because that's what your Forest Moon Festival is all about. So
Yeah.
what is the Forest Moon Festival and how did it come about? Cassandra?
I'll take that one.
Well, to be fair, it was your fever dream.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. More like my laundry dream. I hate doing laundry or dishes. Actually, now I'm okay with it. But 12, 15 years ago, I was not on laundry. Well, I have little kid socks that you have to match. It's like a nightmare. And so, my brain was like, oh, what can I think about as I'm matching these socks? And we had just revamped a map called Map of the Movies, very simple title. And it showcases where different films have filmed in the area, like Jurassic Park, E.T., Outbreak, The Majestic, all these different movies. And so it's a self-guided tour you can go do. And we noticed, Return of the Jedi is on there twice, up in Del Norte County and Humboldt County. And you're like, come on, that all these movies are great, but that series, is so epic. And it was kind of, they were redoing a lot of the movies during that time and or adding more movies to it. And so we were like, okay, this would be pretty amazing. I bet Star Wars fans would love this. And we had heard about how there were stormtroopers in the Bay Area that would come up for an event like this, costumers. And we were like, oh, okay, we could see it. We could have like this thing where we celebrate 2 county-wide. Pretty amazing. Yeah. Then we sat on it for, 5-7 years. And around 2019, we decided, hey, what about that idea we had? Let's have some meetings. Let's get involvement. And we got the cities and the counties involved. And then, 2020 happened. So there was a little.
What happened in 2020?
Right? We all got to stay home and watch TV. Yeah.
We watched a lot of Star Wars, Dave. I don't know where you are.
Exactly. So when we came out of it, we tried a May the 4th type party, at one location and had some costumers. We even had Kevin Thompson come up, who is, an Ewok and played an Ewok in the movie. And we just had a great time and went, wow, this is like gold, what we're sitting on.
Yeah.
So we decided to launch the Forest Moon Festival. 2023 was the first year. So we're at year 3 now. And what has transpired as, what a great novel idea. And look at all the film tourists that would come and spend outside dollars in our rural, depressed economy. How great would that be? Has now turned into the most heartfelt, amazing event to watch, whether it's our locals who get community pride and it increases their quality of life of living here because they get to say, this is in our backyard, or it is the tourists who they have an emotional attachment to the series and it means so much to them, and they get to come here instead of a conference room and get to experience most of these things outside and be kind of immersed in this reality. Watching people's brains and hearts and all of that exploding, and the compliments that we've gotten from it has been everything. Now it's turned into this love affair with the festival for sure.
That's excellent. In the press kit you sent me, I saw a picture of a Wookiee walking across like a suspension bridge that felt like up in the redwoods. And I know it was not the Ewok village, but it was very reminiscent of the Ewok village. That felt like an amazing kind of event or tour to do. What are some of the kind of other events, and what is that one specifically as well?
Well, one of the things that I think is really unique and fantastic about this festival is, most events are sort of centered in one geographic location, but this is spread across 2 counties. And so we have sort of our core events that usually surround a screening, an outdoor screening in a beautiful, outdoor setting, redwoods, right on the ocean. But there's also participation by all sorts of businesses and community partners that are taking part in it as well. They're theming out and decorating and offering specials, be it a restaurant or the state park, doing tours or, through the redwoods. So some people have treated this festival as like a road trip through the region, and they try and hit as many events as they can. Other people kind of focus in on a few of the core events that are near to them. So it's kind of a little bit of choose your own adventure. So I think the screenings are obviously hard to beat, and they're all in really great locations. And we also do a great showing at the Arcata Farmers Market. There's no screening at that event, but that farmers market is just fantastic. Arguably one of the best farmers markets around, and
in the galaxy.
In the galaxy. And so that's another great event. And, the costumers, as Cassandra is mentioning, the costumers that have come up from all of the different costuming troops, they've kind of all said this is their favorite event they've ever been to. And this is like on their list every year to come back because of those unique qualities.
Yeah.
And that bridge that you talked about, in the zoo is just, that's such an incredible moment for them to be able to go, walk that and feel like you are in that village.
And that's the Sequoia Zoo? Do I have that right?
Yes. Yeah. Sequoia.
Do you guys usually, what kind of special guests are you promoting for this year?
Well,
dun, dun, dun.
Right? I'll say Samhain, and maybe Tracy can add to it. I would love that. So, I'll tell you where this originally came from. We knew this year that we wanted to elevate the event. We did 2 years of kind of getting buy-in from the community, getting people from out of the area. We really felt like things were kind of going and getting exciting. And we were like, this is the year that we have to bring somebody in. But immediately after last year, we were all worked. We give it our all.
Yes.
We put our whole heart and soul and bodies into this. And so, we were resting. Everybody was, taking a day off, and I turned on my television and automatically turns on movies before I even pick like where I want to go. And what movie should be playing but Fanboys, directed by Kyle Newman. And, it's kind of like this fun, Star Wars cult classic, of these people going on this road trip to go break into Lucas Films ranch, right? And all this chaos happens along the way. And I was like, what in the heck? This is amazing. Like, I'd forgotten about the movie, and I'm like, this would be just so great to show in addition to all the other things. Well, Tracy went up to me and he was like, why don't we bring Kyle, And so he did such an amazing job at orchestrating that part. So we actually have Kyle Newman, the director, who worked with Carrie Fisher and made this movie. And he's also made other amazing other documentaries, including a documentary about the filming of Return of the Jedi. And he is also an author. He will be coming up for a screening and also to be doing some appearances for us. And then the second group that we have coming is what some people consider like a really, amazing podcast, as far as Star Wars goes. And you guys can tell me what you think is Rebel Force Radio, so they'll be coming too.
They're great.
So, so that we're really excited about it. But Tracy's been really orchestrating a lot to for us.
Well,
Tracy's the emperor when it comes to bringing people.
I don't know about that, but it's so cool to be bringing Kyle up because, besides that it's put on by the film commission, and I think part of the mission of the film commission is to sort of cultivate, film literacy, cinematic literacy in the area. Also, this is just an area that's a very art-centered community, so there's just a deep love and appreciation for art and music. And then there's also this great film school, which I happen to be an alumni of at Cal Poly Humboldt. And so we have filmmakers in the area, we have cinephiles in the area. And so bringing filmmakers and people, not just actors, but people from behind the scenes, I think is just a really cool additional component to the festival. And in our first full year, we had a documentary filmmaker named Chris Mox, who you might love having on your show. He's such a sweetheart. And his films are all about the personal relationship with the Star Wars franchise. It had a really profound part in his life in dealing with loss. And we were lucky enough to have Jim Bloom, the executive producer of Return of the Jedi. So he brought some great stories from scouting up here and figuring out the locations to, all the rest. So Kyle sort of carries on that tradition for us this year. And it's going to be awesome screening Fanboys, and he's going to do a Q&A with that. And then the the guys behind Rebel Force Radio, they really love the idea of sort of community participation in the festival. And so we've sort of dreamed up this, traveling roadshow idea that they're going to sort of do a road trip of some of our key events and do a portion of a live broadcast from each of them.
Wow.
Oh, fun.
So that's a cool, I think, opportunity not only for us to share with their audience what we're doing, but also just to sort of shine a light on some of the really great people and organizations that are up here and that have meant so much to us getting this festival going, or just mean a lot to the community. So,
Yeah.
and we're working on possibly adding one more person. Don't know if that's going to work out yet, or we're starting to run out of time just so we have time to market it properly and everything. But stay tuned.
Yeah. And to add to that, I did forget about year one that we did have Chris and the producer Jim. But they were at one event. And so this year, the difference is having people that were involved in some form of, Star Wars related type entertainment are going to be at each day at something, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they're traveling with us and going to be at the events and doing a lot of meet and greet and more appearance type.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've taken what we did, which was awesome, but we're expanding that now and elevating it. So it's pretty exciting.
It sounds like such an amazing time. You guys have clearly put so much dedication and love into the festival. I mean, and not only just for the fans of the franchise and just Star Wars in general, but also it just kind of sounds like one large love letter to filmmaking and what goes into cinema and the various, craft and expertise that goes into telling these stories. And so I was wondering, what is it for you, both of you, that you want your guests and your audience to walk away from after a Forest Moon Festival the most?
Can I say something before we answer this question? Because
of course.
You're hitting it on the nail, because Tracy and I's background, not to speak for Tracy, but we both, come from a film background. And then this, came into our laps. And so I worked in film for 25 years. I actually, produced and was crew and did all of the behind the scene type stuff for 10 years before I became a film commissioner. And I don't know if Tracy has talked about himself enough, but this gentleman is a real amazing Hollywood filmmaker that we had the luxury, of getting to work with. And so I was more crew. He was more, doing the art side of it. We both love storytelling, and we both now have fallen in love with, the series that we're part of now. So I think you're right when you say it encompasses why we went into film making, that storytelling component and capturing the audience and all of those elements. And we both have those backgrounds. And then we happen to also, have found that we're part of the Star Wars history with our film sites here. So, and again, it goes back to that. What do we want people to leave with is that emotional feeling that they probably already have when they're coming, but we want them to feel like they're immersed. They're there. They got to experience it firsthand. What if they're from, out of the area, and if they live here, we want them to have that pride and feel that quality of life of getting to bragging rights, right? That we do have this epic part in our history here.
Yeah.
It's funny when Cassandra first lured Tiffany and I into this world, it's like, we'll drink some wine. It'll be fun. We'll just kind of walk around and throw a party. Little did we know.
Yeah.
But when we first started, I just sort of personally thought this will be fun. I mean, I love Star Wars, and it'll be a fun party and festive. But to be honest, there are some underserved communities in our region here. And there's a lot of kids and families that really can't afford to go to Disneyland, can't afford to go to conventions, can't afford to have these kinds of experiences. And just that first year, I think, one of the kids that attended one of our events said, "Oh my gosh, it's like you brought Disneyland to my house."
Oh, bless you.
And it really hit me in the heart in a way that was very unexpected. And that has been sort of an inspiration moving forward, that there's more to it than just dressing up and having some fun. There's some real meaningful experiences being created here. And another funny thing, the first year we played Return of the Jedi, of course, it was the anniversary, so that's why we really raced that first year. It was the 40-year anniversary, so we raced to get the festival together in short order. so that we could hit that anniversary. And then the next year we thought, well, gosh, what do we do now? Maybe should we start over the cycle and go back to A New Hope? So we did A New Hope, and a lot of people were like, no, we want Return of the Jedi. So I think it's kind of like, how maybe you're too young to remember this, but it used to be The Wizard of Oz every year got played.
Yes.
And
Easter,
it was
I
like
believe.
a family tradition. So everyone watched The Wizard of Oz. And so I feel like it's sort of creating this family tradition to every year watch Return of the Jedi in the Redwoods.
Wow.
And so we're back to Return of the Jedi happily.
Love that. Don't mess with the classics, right?
One of the things I really love about this is that it feels, you mentioned community participation. It feels like a lot of the stores get involved in this. Like the whole community does come together to celebrate Return of the Jedi, as well as a lot of the fans coming up to experience the immersive nature of being in the world where Return of the Jedi took place. And I think that is, for me as a film lover and as a fan, I find that so amazing when you get to see the spaces that your favorite film filmed at.
We did a lot of research when we were, trying to create funding for putting something like this on, and buy-in from our community partners, our counties, our cities, and other partners that we work with, of why was this going to be important, and was this going to even draw people in, and why do it, And some of the research that we found was that, I believe it's 97% of Americans at some point have either visited a film site or will visit a film site. That was huge, 97%. And then we also found that 64% of Americans consider themselves a real Star Wars fan. That's a huge number, right? So between those two, we went, oh my gosh, of course they're going to love that. And then we went on to do more research that found it talking about the emotional tie and how you have, a visceral reaction to something that you've seen on the screen. And then you go in person and you're like immersed there. Like me saying, my very first Star Wars movie at the movie theater, I don't remember the seats. I remember being there, in the desert with him, and
I love that.
That's what I keep seeing is like, I'm in that world. And I think, I forget about it here because I'm so used to the redwood trees in my backyard and that they're going to just fall through my house during a storm, That's what I'm worried about,
Yes.
And then I go to these locations either with film crews or a movie, a film tourist, or somebody like, who's in love with the Star Wars series. And I watch their mind explode and the visceral reaction that they have. And so, yeah, you're right. Them getting to come here, it's like what Tracy talked about. Our customers have said this is one of their favorite events that they go to because it is near or at the location,
Yeah.
That's spectacular.
If folks want to attend the festival, they want to learn more about it, where do they go? Who do they talk to? What do they do?
ForestMoonFestival.org is our website. There's the Map of the Movies app, Film Experience app, is available for free download. We're on all the social media type things.
All those links will be in the podcast notes, so people can just click through.
And uniquely so, just to make one last comment, it is ForestMoonFestival.org because it's a nonprofit festival, and almost every event is free. And so I think that's pretty unique among any kind of festival, to be honest with you.
Dave, you and I should road trip.
Yes.
Come on down.
Cassandra, Tracy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, this was awesome.
It sounds like an amazing event. When I walk, we live in the Pacific Northwest, so we have a lot of trees that feel kind of like maybe I don't even know, 20th the size of what the redwoods are. And I was taking a hike yesterday thinking about this interview, and I'd come across a fallen tree and I'd be like, man, I would love to see where they actually shot the indoor scenes of Return of the Jedi. It's just a
bucket list item.
Yes, it's a bucket list item. So I really appreciate you guys putting this on.
Yeah.
And also getting all these great guests and inviting everyone to come play. It seems like a fantastic event.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Come on down.
We will.
Well, until then, may the Force be with you.
And also with you.
So as we do every week, we're going to talk about how we Star Wars this week.
Yeah. Dave, how'd you Star Wars this week?
It's hard being a Star Wars fan right now. I'm just going to be blunt about it. I think the next couple of weeks or months is going to be tough just because this week is Andor, continuing season 2 of Andor with Arc 3, which was amazing.
Yes.
But I'm also, at the same time, reading Chris Kimshall's book, Death Stars and Democracy, which talks about how fascism in the real world is represented in Star Wars. And doing both Andor and Death Stars and Democracy is kind of like waking up every morning and punching yourself in the face.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been reading the book a little bit more slowly, I think, than you have. But I would agree with that. Yep. At the time of recording this right now, I have only watched episodes 7 and 8. I have not yet watched episode 9. I cheated on Star Wars last night, which was Tuesday. For those listening, trying to put our timeline together. I was seduced by a 107-year-old super soldier named James Buchanan Barnes and decided to go see Thunderbolts at half-priced movie night at my local theater. But that's not how I Star Wars this week. How I Star Wars this week is my husband and I spent some time with family in Denton, Texas, and they have a really fun, in the town square there's a really fun series of kind of like antique-y and half-price book shops. Very college town vibes.
Yes.
And in 2 different shops, I found the Qui-Gon action figure I've been wanting from episode 1.
Nice.
I needed to replace him. For those who are longtime listeners, you know that mine were tragically sold in a garage sale. And then I found the Mandalorian's N1 Starfighter.
Nice.
Yeah, so it came, and it's like brand new in box, never assembled. I love a Lego Star Wars kit.
Okay. But let's just quickly have this out real quick. Are you going to open it and build it, or keep it in the box?
Oh, I will open it and build it for sure. I no.
I look here's no, I am, but here's the thing. I bought 2 Cad Banes, the vintage collection, with the intention of opening one. Because I was like, okay, I'll have one for collection and one to open and sit on my desk. I couldn't open either one.
Oh.
I still have them both in the box on my shelf.
Well, damn. I mean, I don't know. I have a lot of Lego to. I have a lot of Lego I'm behind on. I encourage
people to open and play with their toys. It's just hard for me.
That's okay. This one comes with Mando, Grogu, Paley, or we decided it was Paley, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And then it has a BD droid in it as well, which is
nice.
Really funny.
No, that's a great piece.
Yeah,
I actually
have
I have the original Naboo Starfighter from like 2000. What must have been 99. I got it.
Oh my god!
2000. Yeah, and guess what? In the box.
Yeah. Okay. So this is where I'm starting to understand. Like, if this had been from the 90s, like if I had found a 90s, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah. See,
but there's something in my mind that's like, this isn't as collector because it was more recent.
Yeah.
But I know in 20 years that won't be the case.
Yeah, totally makes sense. That is not even girl math. That is just collector's math.
That's collector's math. It's so funny where we just like where our lines of like value are drawn in the sand. I'm like 90s. Anything after the year 2000 is fair game.
It's so true. So next week, we're going to talk to Brian Ward, who I'm really excited to talk to because he is a graphics designer as well as, I'm just going to say, a Twitter influencer. I'm not sure he would agree with that, but in a way he is because he creates these Star Wars photoshops that are really funny
Yeah.
He does graphics for Star Wars Explained. He's done logos for a ton of different podcasts and shows and brands.
Mm-hmm.
But it's his Photoshops that really caught my attention on Twitter. Especially, he has a kind of obsession with Dexter Jester and putting him in all sorts of places. And it's just
so funny.
He's a fun guy to talk to. So that's next week.
I'm excited for the audience to hear it. It was a fun interview.
If you want to get in on the conversation, you can do so on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 and the letter U. And if you have the opportunity, give us a 5-star review. It really helps get the word of what does Star Wars mean to you out there.
So until next week.
May the Force be with you.
And with you. About his Star Wars journey. So maybe we should just go ahead and dive right into the Holocron recap. Holocron recap.
I
almost did that on one take. I almost did that on one take, and I heard it coming. I was like, the stutter's coming at some point. It's coming at some point.
Oh my god, the Holocron recap. That's what we're gonna call it from now on.
Recap.
He walked away with a full flush.
He did.
Full flush? He walked away. I can't think. Royal flush.
I was like, I think I know what it is, but I don't play poker.
I got Full House and Royal Flush mixed up. Hi, this is Dave. And before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.